One of only 8 athletes to medal in 4 different Olympics. He won a world championship in 1995 and was the captain of the 1996 U.S. Olympic team in Atlanta. He has served as a celebrated coach at the college level. He is now the director of athletics at Edinburgh University and a very large inspiration to many, many people. Please welcome the most decorated wrestler in American history, Mr. Bruce Baumgartner.
Thank you, Jeff. Boy, I don't know where to start. There was some very good speeches, some inspirational stories, and I first want to congratulate the inductees. I'm kind of a history buff, obviously a sports junkie like a lot of people here, and I just really, the stories and what the coaches and the different athletes have done is really inspiring to me and giving back training to different athletes and providing the championship teams. And again, I want to congratulate the 6 inductees. Ron Blackmer came over and said, I had a speech at this other banquet and somebody else used a lot of it. Well, I was going to talk about wrestling and what wrestling has done for me, and Walt stole my speech. It is true, though, that was my saying, probably still is, kill the head, kill the beast. It works in a lot of aspects in life, if you think about it. Jeff, your wife told me a little different story about your son, dad, when he saw the other anchor up there, and she said he fell asleep when you were on TV. You always got to watch the jabs when he has the microphone last. I'm sure he'll dream up something. I want to thank Walt's wife, Daphne, for supporting Edinburgh University and our plaid. She is the most plaid award winner here today. I think when I speak or I'm around banquets like this, what I really enjoy the most is honoring the high school athletes. And hopefully the high school athletes can hear the stories of the inductees and really use that to make a difference in their life. I was here, and it was interesting because the one school, the same group of athletes were basketball players and softball players, both won the academic awards. They were some very, very smart young ladies, and I want to congratulate them because the academics is, in the long run, probably as important or more important than the athletics portion of it. But it was really inspirational to see the young men and women come up here and receive their awards for their honors in their particular sports. A lot of people kind of ask me, and Bruce, you've won all this stuff you heard, Jeff talk about and so forth. And, I didn't receive a lot of those awards like the athletes coming up here today. I started wrestling when I was 14 years old. I was a freshman in high school. I didn't have the little pee-wee coaching and so forth that a lot of people have. I grew up in New Jersey. I started wrestling late, in high school. How many people here have ever been to a high school, college, watched wrestling on TV wrestling match? Okay, I know wrestling's really big down here in Section 6, and we've recruited Edinburgh quite a few athletes, but I got pinned my first match. I was not very good as a freshman. In fact, this is a true story. I was 6'6" varsity. I was 188 pounds. I wrestled some heavyweight and some at 188. My brother was 3 years older than me. I was a freshman. He was a senior. In high school, he was pretty good and I was pretty bad. He used to love beating on me. I will say revenge is sweet. He got old and I got good. Mom didn't like it, but I busted his eye almost every Christmas break when I was in college. It was the best Christmas present I could ever give myself. But I did wrestle varsity my freshman year. I was 3-3 varsity my freshman year, which just sounds pretty good until you realize that my 3 wins were forfeits for the team. I was pretty good JV. I was probably 500 JV back then. And why do I share that? Everybody says, oh, you won all these things. These are by the real Olympic medals. They are not reproductions or fakes. If you want to come up later on the way, and I know it's getting a little bit late, but you can look at them. We'll set them up, and if anybody wants me to sign anything or pictures with them, that would be great too. But they are the real Olympic medals. The reason why I share that I started out without the success is because I think it puts it in perspective of what we can do as individuals if we do the right things, work hard. You know, as it turned out, I was 3rd in the state in New Jersey. I mean, not too bad, but not great. I was never a state champion. I decided to go to Indiana State University in Terre Haute, Indiana. And I want to share with you the best advice I ever received from anyone in my life. And it was my dad. My dad was a bus mechanic, and he couldn't get off of work. He worked for a company in New Jersey that took buses into New York, all the commuters and the craziness in New York City. And he stuck his head in the window. He was working that weekend, and my mom and my brother were driving me to college. And he said, Bruce, he said, I want you to go out there and do your best. And he got the recruiting brochure out, and he says, you know, everybody in this brochure is a 1, 2, or a 3-time state champion. And he had to point out to me, there's even one guy who's a 4-time state champion. You never won the state. He says, if you go out there and do your best, don't make the team, I'll be proud of you, come back, and I'll help you be that bus mechanic. I want to be like my dad, a bus mechanic. And then what really bothered me was then he said, Bruce, he said, you're a C+ student. He says, everybody in college usually have B+ and A's. He says, if you go out there and do your best and fail out, I'll be proud of you, come back, and we can have you be that bus mechanic. And I'm telling you, I was 17 years old, and everybody's in here saying, boy, that's a heck of a pep talk. That's what I was thinking. It was a heck of a pep talk. So I'm driving across New Jersey, Pennsylvania, into Ohio. You know where Richmond, Indiana was? That's probably where the light went on in my head. Because I was really mad. I didn't talk to my dad for about 6 months after that pep talk. Probably barely talked to my mother. I was mad. But then I started to think, and I said, and I talk to myself a lot to this day, learn not to do it out loud because people think you're a little crazy. I said, Self, have you ever done your absolute best at anything? And you know what? I thought from Richmond, Indiana, till just west of Terre Haute, and you guys are all getting your smartphones out. How far is that? What are you looking at? It's about 70 miles. For about an hour, hour and a half, I thought to myself, and I could not think of one thing that I've ever done my best at 17 years old. I didn't do every pull-up the coach told me to. I'm not proud of it, but it's a fact. I did not run as fast as I could every sprint. I did pretty good, don't get me wrong. But you know, when the coach turned her back, I started counting by 2s occasionally. So what I said to myself, I said, you know, Self, I'm going to go out there at Indiana State University, I'm going to do my absolute best. And I really have to thank my coach, Fran McCann, because he sat down with me, and every week, for between about 10 minutes and 20 minutes, he talked to us about our goals and what we're trying to do, and he taught me how to set goals. He taught me how to focus on what you're trying to do. He taught me how to do my best. And you know, as it turned out, I was a 3-time finalist in the NCAA Championships, Division I. In fact, here's a little trivia for those that follow sports trivia. I believe to this day, I am the only NCAA champion in the history of the sport to be pinned twice in the finals. Very proud day. It is in some of the trivia books, by the way. My sophomore year, I made it to the finals, got pinned. My junior year, my senior year, I won. And proud moment, one of the biggest accomplishments of my life, winning the NCAA championships. That kid from New Jersey that couldn't win the state championships won the nationals. I also, and something when people ask me, what are you really proud of? I graduated Indiana State with honors. I was at about a 3.87 grade point average. I needed a 3.88 to be summa cum laude. I was only cum laude, missed it by a little bit, but very proud of that point that I was able to take that C+, third in the state, graduating with the A-. No such thing as an A-, but I'm a positive type of guy. A- average in winning in national championships. But you know, I had a dream. I wanted to be an Olympic champion. In 1984, went out for the Olympics and won the Olympics. Does anybody know what was different about the 1984 Olympics? Incorrect, almost. No Soviets. Now the Russians, they were Soviets back then. There were no Soviets. The powers of the world, Cuba, East Germany, Soviet Union, Bulgaria weren't there. So I set my goal to win the Olympics with all the countries there. My next opportunity was 1988. And you can see the medal, the gold. I don't know what way they're facing. Is on one side, the next one over to silver. It looks really silver, by the way. It's the only one that's solid silver. I lost to a guy named David Govedashvili 3-1 in 1988. And I was flying back from Seoul, and I was really bummed for a while, but then I got to thinking, you know, I did everything possible. I did my best. And on that day, that one day in 88, David Govedashvili, the Soviet wrestler, was a little better than I was. And I said, as long as you do your absolute best, like my dad's advice, be proud of what you do. But you know, I still had that dream. I had that dream to be the Olympic champion with all the countries there, that goal. Things were going really well. 1991, I went to Bulgaria in World Championships, and I placed 8th. The first year, I did not place first, second, or third in the world or Olympics since 1982, since I started my international wrestling. I was devastated. And I had all these people come around me and say, you know, Bruce, maybe you're too old. I was 31 years old. Maybe you're too old. You're too fat, too slow. I was head coach at Edinburgh University at the time, probably teaching Walt how to kill the head. I had a wife and a child. And everybody started to tell me, you know, you're not good enough. You're too old. You're too slow. Wife and a child. All that stuff, making excuses. But I still believed in myself. And why do I share this? Because I think there's times in life when we come up to a point, and maybe this is to some of the younger athletes, and a lot of times I think about it myself. You come up to a point where everybody around you is making excuses for you of why you can't be good, why your business can't be, why you can't. And if you believe in it, and you prepare, and you work, you can change that. What I did in 1991 is I got a guy named Mike Fuselli to come in and live with me for about a year. I made a deal with him that I would feed him, give him $100 a month, pay his phone bill, and he would train with me. Never do the phone bill thing with the kid with the girlfriend back in New York. It was a killer. I would have fed him 3 times. I guess now with cell phones, kids don't even know. They know cell phone bills, not phone bills. Long distance was a bill back then charged. I got coaches, strength trainers, sports physiologists, nutritionalists, exercise psychologists, you name it, I surrounded myself with good people. And when people ask me the simple question, where in your life did you wrestle the absolute best? It was Barcelona, the gold medal down there, Barcelona, Spain, 1992, I wrestled my absolute best. 1 year after my absolute worst. And I won't get into all the technical list why I didn't wrestle well in 91. I worked hard. I did everything right in 91. I did my best. I didn't work smart. I went on after that. After I was old and decrepit, I won 2 world championships, a silver, in the proudest moment in my wrestling career, carrying our great flag in the opening ceremonies, the Olympics in 1996. It was phenomenal. When I walked over that ramp into the Olympic Stadium, almost 100,000 people around, you could not hear yourself talk. I could, if I was to scream, you couldn't hear me. And it was just a proud moment representing the United States of America, representing you folks in the Olympics, being elected the captain. I was nervous. The day before, the State Department comes in, the President Clinton gave you the flag. It is pretty neat, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, when you meet a president. It is really cool, especially when there's all kinds of Secret Service, and it's just a neat experience. We spent some time with him and his family. They gave us the flag. I presented him a uniform, but carrying the flag, people asked me, what was going through your mind? The United States flag doesn't dip for anybody. I don't know why I did it one hand. If you watch the pictures, all that was going through my mind, don't trip, don't drop it, don't trip, don't drop it. For 400 meters, that's all I thought. I was never so happy to set a flag in a pole as that point. I honestly, I watch it on TV now and again, and my son's he's in communications, working on my website a little bit, and he's going to post some things on. I just watched a clip a couple of weeks ago. It's almost a blur. It was so awesome and such a great time. You know, I've been very fortunate. I want to share, and I don't know if the high school athletes are still here, and I want to kind of share what I think, and it's just not the high school athletes, because as adults, I do corporate speaking sometimes also, and I have 4 keys to success that I want to share with you that I think has made a significant difference in my life. And number 1, I think success is something we can all obtain. It's a journey in life. It's doing the best with our abilities and what we have. Not everybody in here, I will guarantee you this, is going to be an Olympic champion. Not everybody in here is going to be a great sportscaster. Not everybody in here is going to be a great wrestling coach, great race car driver. But we can do the best with what we have. We can and will be successful if we make our choices to do so and prepare our minds and body to do so. And I think there's 4 keys to success. First of all, you need to set your goals and set them high. And you need to write them down. Because it's so easy when we hit that adversity, I really didn't want to do that. Write them down. Have professional goals, educational goals, social goals, maybe some hobby goals. Write your goals down. Once you know what you want to accomplish, surround yourself with the good people to do it. Wrestling, they say, is an individual sport. But in 1991, when I had troubles, I got coaches, good workout partners, sports psychologists, exercise physiologists. I surrounded myself with good people. And for the young athletes that are here, the high schoolers, surround yourself with those good kids on your team, the smart kids, the coaches, the people that want to excel when you get to college. Surround yourself with the good people. The 3rd key to success, and I think I'm just re-realizing this again, because I have, for those of you who see me maybe in some of the different things, I've been trying to be more fit and more physically fit. I lost some weight. I got a little heavy after my competition, but we have to take care of our minds and bodies. You know, I have 3 different sons. One does a lot of video games and hangs out. 2 are athletes. And, you know, we really need to concentrate on eating properly, taking care of our bodies, exercising properly, getting the proper rest. Your minds and your bodies will do amazing things if you take care of them and prepare. That's the third key. The fourth key to success, I think, goes down to my dad's life-changing experience, for me anyway, is going out and doing your best. Doing your best, working hard, being persistent, overcoming those obstacles. I am sure it is what most coaches in here have talked about 100 times with their athletes. When you lose, you pick yourself up and you move forward. Because we're all going to hit those obstacles, whether they're in our professions, whether they're in our relationships. It's working at it, moving it forward in your athletics, overcoming those obstacles. I do want to talk about the great sport of wrestling, and I know Walt had already covered some of the attributes, but for those of you who follow any of the news recently, wrestling has been, the recommendation from the International Olympic Committee has been to eliminate wrestling in 2012 from the core sports program. So we are safe as a sport, wrestling, in 2016. In 2020, there will be a vote in September whether to take the International Olympic Committee's recommendation to remove the sport. There's also an opportunity in May to have that same group that removed us put us back on to the program. I get a lot of questions. I am on a committee of about 15 of us that are trying to coordinate the United States efforts to bring the sport and preserve it in the Olympics. There are groups in Russia, there are groups in Uzbekistan, Bulgaria, Turkey, Iran, Japan, Canada, just Korea, just about every country you can think of, Cuba, very similar to our group. I'm not going to Iran next week, but we'll have leaders in Iran. We are going to fight this and make it so that our young women and young men in the United States of America have the opportunity to compete in the Olympics. Wrestling is one of the oldest, if not the oldest, known sport to man. In fact, in the University of Columbia archives, the oldest instruction book of any sport, and it's hundreds of years old, if not thousands, is a manuscript that describes coaching of wrestling. There's no other manuscript older in the world, speaking of any other sport. Wrestling is competed in 180 countries. Olympic-style wrestling, one of the greatest numbers of countries that participate in this London Olympics. There were 71 countries represented in wrestling, which is very, very high for diversity of countries. And 29 countries won medals in the Olympics for wrestling. So that's, again, very high. So there's a lot of great people fighting it, and I would encourage you, if you are interested to finding out more about it, interested in helping the fight, there's a website, themat.com, that you can go to, and it is themat.com. There's a place where Save Olympic Wrestling, and any support that you can give, either signing a petition, electronic petition, signing up on an email, donating, it's a great thing. Providing opportunities for our young men and young women to wrestle, I think, is something that's very important to me. One of our teammates, one of the people that wrestled for me at Edinburgh, grew up in Roy Hart. I know that's not Section 6, but pretty close. Was an Olympic teammate of mine in 1996. So we do have people from this area that have legitimate shots at being, on the Olympic team in wrestling. It is a very political situation in the International Olympic Committee. In closing, I just want to really challenge the young athletes here, the high school athletes. You have opportunities in front of you. You have a lot of things college, work, a lot of decisions, finishing out your year, please make good decisions, be successful, use your talents and your abilities to go on and be the absolute best you can be. And in closing, I do want to congratulate the high school athletes. I want to congratulate the athletes that came up here earlier. Not all of them were high school athletes, but that won the regional All-American National Championship Awards, because it's always great to promote excellence, and all about doing your best and being excellent. And I was truly inspired by our 6 inductee stories, the people that you have touched, the people that you have thanked. And I want to commend the Hall of Fame committee, the folks that made this happen, for providing the opportunity to bring the younger athletes to hear the inductees and how they've touched people's lives. It's been a great evening for me. I know I'm inspired to go out there and try to do even better in my life and touch more people. And want to thank the committee for having me. It was a great evening in my part. Thank you very much. Have a safe trip home and work hard for your goals and dreams. Thank you.
Did you ever guess that you would be in a position today, here in Lakewood, New York, where you got Vladimir Putin and Bruce Baumgartner on the same team supporting a cause?
Well, I wouldn't have imagined, and when I was in high school, of ever doing the things they have done. I think that, I've been very blessed, very fortunate in life. I've had a lot of great opportunities, and it's been a good ride.
Obviously, all kinds of news. I bet people have been ringing the phone off the hook here of late, seeing the Twitters and everything else. And did you see it coming?
The whole wrestling world did not see it coming. We had leadership in FILA, which was the International Wrestling Governing Body, that kept telling the world, that, as you put it, the Russians, the Iranians, all of this, the U.S. people, that, everything's under control, nothing to worry about, wrestling strong, we don't have a problem, and which really perpetuated the problem, because none of our countries worried, because we were told by our international governing body that wrestling was safe in the Olympics. Well, then it turned out, last week, less than a week ago, that our leadership in FILA was 100% wrong. That leadership has since stepped down, and now, we're trying to unite the world to to work collaboratively to get, preserve wrestling in the Olympics, because it's not out of the Olympics yet. It was recommended. The vote comes in September.
Right. How did you, the greatest freestyle wrestler ever, come to learn about it? I mean, did you hear from a tweet? Did you get an email?
I actually got a call from my sister-in-law that she had heard it on the news, and then almost simultaneously we got emails from USA Wrestling and different people, and task force was mobilized with some very politically and financially influential folks in the United States, and Canada, Soviet Union, Iran, Turkey, Japan, countless other countries have mobilized committees, task force in their country to work on preserving wrestling in the Olympics.
You had to be a little bit incredulous, saying, how did our leadership miss this one?
Well, I think it comes down to the leadership definitely didn't do its due diligence. And we had a field meeting where all the leaders, the 20 leaders or so, got together just by chance. They were already on their way to a meeting in Taipei, and the head leader who kept telling everybody who everything was okay was at that point resigned, and the new leadership is in place, and I think things are moving forward at a pretty good pace to work on preserving wrestling in the Olympics.
What is the next steps?
Well, there's a couple different options the country could use or the world could use, because it's a world issue, not a United States issue. But one is to try to convince the 15-member executive committee to put wrestling. They have a meeting in May to put wrestling back on the core program, and that's a possibility. Or we could, in September, work with the whole 120 approximately member International Olympic Committee and have them not support the February recommendation. So there's two different avenues, and the World Cup is in Iran this week, and a lot of the world wrestling leaders are getting together to kind of united front of what avenue and how we're going to work on it.
How'd you get in this wrestling business? Was this something in high school that you went to a match and said, gee, maybe I can do this?
I basically went out for the high school wrestling team like any other kid that goes out for any sport. Just my brother did it before I did. I liked watching him wrestle. I went up and there I was. I was on a wrestling team. Wasn't very good at first. I'll talk a little bit about that tonight. But I just started out, walked on, the high school wrestling team like any other kid, freshman in high school.
And it was love at first, Matt?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I liked the sport, right to the end when I was doing it all those years. I liked it. It was an enjoyable sport. I liked the training. I liked the effort, the one-on-one, the competitiveness of it. It was fun. Did
Indiana State recruit you from Helena? Did they watch you? There's New Jersey State Championships?
Yeah, it was kind of a long, it's kind of, I knew somebody who knew somebody who knew somebody. I didn't. I just was wrestling in high school, and a kid from a couple of towns over just happened to have gone to Indiana State a few years before, and he told the coach, hey, this kid from Haledon, Manchester Regional High School is pretty good, just keep an eye on him. And one thing led to another, and I was at Indiana State.
Yeah. My brother-in-law was the New Jersey State heavyweight champion, super heavyweight champion, way back before you. He's from Westfield, New Jersey. So, though I never wrestled, I vicariously watched him.
What was his name?
Jim Howard. So he would have been a few years older than me.
Yeah.
So Indiana State, among other things, you actually meet a student trainer there.
Mm-hmm. Met my wife there for. Been married over 30 years now, but yep, we met. She was actually not really assigned to the wrestling. She was assigned to the other sports, but just happened to meet her and started dating, and one thing led to another, and here we are 30-some years later.
I read one thing that led to another was your love for ice cream, her eating of oatmeal, and you do that on the anniversary of your...
Yeah, we do that pretty regularly on it. It's kind of hard. Sometimes there's no oatmeal around. It's but I can usually find the ice cream, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, it was a great story. And going through Indiana State, did you have role models? Did you look at the Dan Gables of the world at that time?
I was pretty isolated when I was growing up in the wrestling world. I did not follow wrestling like I do today, like I did when I graduated from Indiana State University. So I didn't know a whole lot about Dan Gable or Stan Desick or some of the heroes, the Petersons. Now as I graduated and in college, I started to learn a lot more about them, but I really didn't have that knowledge in high school and my first 3+ years in college.
Success begat successes at Indiana State. Is Indiana State at the time known for its wrestling?
Not really. We were pretty good. Excuse me.
Bless you.
We were pretty good, but it was not really known for the wrestling. We had a couple of good kids, a couple of All-Americans while I was wrestling. I think we were in the top 10 a couple of times, but you know, it grew. It got a little bit stronger, and then, you know, a shame that eventually they dropped the sport. So you know, it was I was there with those Pittsburgh Steeler fans. Tunch Elkin was on the football team, and now he's the you know, voice of the Pittsburgh Steelers, and Larry Bird was there, Kurt Thomas was there, a great gymnast. So it was, for a state school in Indiana, it had some, you know, great athletes there at one time.
Did basketball, being so strong in Indiana, did anybody really get attention? Were you able to get attention in the wrestling program?
Not really. I mean, I was one of the few national champions. Remember that, you know, Indiana State was second to Michigan State, I believe it was. So, you know, it gandered when Larry left and the basketball team wasn't doing quite as well. And again, basketball is still the big sport in Indiana. I'm not saying it wasn't, but you know, a little bit more attention went to the wrestling and some of the success we were having.
You were the alternate in 1980 Olympics. Has that always been one of your was that one of the aspirational things, just to go and be part of the Olympic process?
Well, you know, I in 1976, you know, I was in high school. I did watch a little of the Olympics, and I thought, you know, that would be kind of cool. My mom really liked the Olympics. She really liked the figure skating, and she really liked the gymnastics, and I watched a lot of that growing up. And as a byproduct, you know, I saw a little bit of wrestling, but overall, you know, I think I had sort of, at the time I graduated high school, I never won a high school state championship, so I think it was more of a, I'm going to say a dream, not a goal. And then as I became better in college, I decided that, you know, it really was my just liking to wrestle that caused me to try out for the 80 Olympic team. And then I was actually pretty good in 80, you know, 82, 83. So it was more of a way I'm going to, you know, really make a go at it in 84 and then beyond.
I don't know the difference between freestyle wrestling and Greco-Roman wrestling. And can you give me Reader's Digest?
Well, when I wrestled, the wrestling that you do here in New York, in this area, the high schools, and you've had some great wrestlers. You know, I noticed you have Jim Beekner in your Hall of Fame, and he's a coach at Buffalo, friend of mine, great wrestler. What he did in high school and college is very similar to freestyle. A little bit of a point difference. Now, as of late, the last 3 or 4 years, wrestling, and maybe that's why it's having a little bit of a trouble in the Olympics, might have lost its way with the rules. They have some crazy things, pulling a ball, pull out, and things that make it chance instead of, you know, the hard work. The Greco-Roman wrestling, and that's, you know, the probably more ancient style, classical wrestling, is you can only attack from the waist up. You're not allowed to grab the legs, trip, and so forth. I mean, you can stand on your legs, but you can't, you know, as a normal double leg or single leg takedown that most high school, most elementary kids can do very proficiently today.
Right.
You can do in freestyle, you can't in Greco.
Is that of any interest to you? Did you have...
I never really wrestled. I never competed a actual match in Greco-Roman.
Yeah.
Never, you know, now I practiced some, but never really competed.
What's your dad? Was your dad a wrestler? Was that?
Nope. My mom or dad, neither one of them participated in any sports. They just, you know, they came through the era where, you know, they had to work quite a bit. Their, you know, sports and activities in high schools were nothing like they are today, and you know, they were very supportive, but had no experience at any kind of athletics at all. My mom, I guess, bowled a little bit.
Speaking of your first Olympic opportunity, what's it feeling, kind of going out there, you look around, and you're really wearing the USA on the back of your
Well, the first Olympic opportunity was in Los Angeles in 1984. It was a boycott year. The Soviet Union, East Germany, Cuba, I think Bulgaria, possibly two or three of the best countries at the time did not show up. Now, I had earlier in that year won the Tbilisi tournament in 1984, which had all the big Soviets there. So, there were a couple of us that probably would have medaled, and I'm not saying won, but probably would have medaled regardless if the Soviets were there. I was third in the world in 83. I won it obviously in 84, but it was a boycott year. But it was pretty exciting. It was thrilling. United States, LA, in Anaheim, 10, 15,000 people in the stands. It was pretty neat.
So you play the national anthem. What are you doing?
Oh, the national anthem. By the time you get to that point after you've won, you got the flag going overhead. They're giving you a medal's around your neck. It's a feeling of relief at that point. It's a lot of hard work coming to the end, and you're just proud to have represented the country the best you could, and proud that you were able to be victorious. It's pretty difficult, the training and so forth, and it's sort of a little bit of a relief at the end.
You did it for so many years, but after the 84, you go home and just chow down? Do you just say, I need a break from all of this stuff?
No, I think, I've probably, unless I was injured, and even when I was injured, I would exercise the other parts of the bodies that wasn't injured. I basically would only ever take a 2-week period off, and then I would start some type of training. So from somewhere in the neighborhood of 1979, 1980, till 1997 in April, I probably didn't take more than a 2-week period off in any one of those time frames. When I was injured, I might have maybe a little bit longer here and there after a surgery, but if I had a surgery on my knee, I'd be working out my upper body, and if I had, on my shoulder, it would be, working my lower body.
What are the economics of this? I mean, you're an amateur.
Well, the economics in the days that I wrestled, yes, I was more of an amateur. We did it. There was some stipend money to train on, but most of us spent more to train than we were making. There was an Operation Gold stipend if you got a medal from the Olympic Committee, but you're talking about, I think the maximum of that was about $2,500. I think my last Olympics there was a little bit more for gold, silver, and bronze, but today I think the Olympic Committee is giving $50,000 for a medal, a gold medal, and I think wrestling and some other sports it's $250,000. So the economics back when I wrestled, a person medaling today made more than I made in my whole career.
Yeah. 88 Olympics, win the silver. Do you remember the guy? I mean, obviously you remember the guy who beat you, but anything unique about his style that just kind of...
we went back and forth. We probably wrestled about 15 times. I won probably 8 or 10 of them, and he probably won, 5 or 6 of them. He won a world championships off of me, an Olympics, and I won Olympics and world off of him. So
who was it?
We went back. David Gobadishvili from the Soviet Union was eventually, he's actually a Georgian from Tbilisi, Georgia. He became the mayor of Tbilisi, Georgia. And, I don't know him very well because I was a competitor. I never became real friendly with my opponents.
After it was all said and done, you'd go to the Olympic Village. Did you try to seek out these guys at all and just hang?
Nope, I was a competitor. I went over there, I competed, and I came home.
Yeah. So no kibitzing.
No fraternizing with the enemy.
Yeah. 92.
Gold in Barcelona, and probably the best I ever wrestled. I beat David Gobadishvili, who won the gold in 88. I beat him in 92. 3-0 in what amounts to the quarterfinals, semifinals. I beat the returning world champion from East Germany, and then in the finals I beat a Canadian. So
You gotta say, wow, can I keep this up? Was it at the end of 92? Did you say, should I or should I call it a day, or did that retirement, the big R word come in yet?
Every time I competed, especially at the Olympics, you always figure if you're, the object is to win the gold medal in the Olympics. So you'd always kind of have that feeling, do I want to go for another quadrennium, another 4 years? And, I decided right away I did. I wanted to, and it was probably my most successful 2 gold, a silver, and a bronze in that 4 years. So I was pretty happy.
96, you're surprised when the team voted you to?
It was a shock. I think it's the first time I believe a wrestler ever got to carry the flag in opening ceremonies. Baumgartner was able to carry it in the closing ceremonies in 2000. But I wouldn't say a shock. I mean, it was a great honor. It's basically being elected the captain of the team and carrying the flag. It was pretty neat. It was a great day.
What was your emotions? What were you feeling?
Oh, but pride. I mean, there's no other way. You're just proud of the country, proud of representing the United States. One of the best Olympic teams ever. Being voted on by your peers, and then walking in opening ceremonies, you're a little nervous. 100,000 people in the stands.
Don't trip.
A billion or two. You don't want to trip. Billion or two people watching it in the on TV. It's not like. It's not like when you're a little kid and you're tripping and running around the house and you trip and you go, I meant to do that. There's no, I meant to do that. I mean, it's pretty nerve-wracking. And it was very loud. You couldn't even hear yourself speak.
Yeah. Do your kids ask about this?
My children? No, they've lived with it all their life. I probably think that my 2 oldest that are more of an athletes have more of an appreciation. I'm not so sure my 16-year-old has a clue of the status or the accomplishment level over the years.
Over a 17-year period, no American beat you.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa.
Every U.S. Open in between there, so that's a long span.
Holy cow. And I'm looking over there at your 4 medals. I mean, that's just, I think I read someplace only in history of the Olympics, 8 people have actually.
Now, there's actually about, I think it's now up to about 12 males that have done it. There's about 4 or 5 of us that have done it in individual sports, not team sports or equestrian.
Right.
And that's I think in the history of the Olympics. So equestrian and shooting, I believe, have some 5s, some 4s and 5s. But if the actual more physical sports, I mean, there's a handful of us.
Well, you were the 4th at the time, and Al Order was the only one that really had name recognition.
Yeah, Al Order is, Al Order, he passed away a couple of years ago, but he had 4 golds at 4 Olympics, set 4 Olympic records, 4 in a row, just a phenomenal feat. Carl Lewis is one that has 4 medals in 4 different Olympics also, and if you look at what he's done. Now, he's had numerous opportunities. Al Order, myself, and a few of the others, we had 1 opportunity, not, long jump, high, long jump, triple jump, but, it's pretty good company.
At some point after the 96 Olympics, you look at your wife and say, Linda, that's it. I mean, 97, you sort of retired. The R word came into your vocabulary. Was that tough?
No, I was ready. I was pretty much knew I was ready after the Olympics in 96. I did compete in the World Cup in 97. I won, sort of, I don't want to say lucky, but I got beat by the Cuban, beat the Russian. The way it all worked out, I won the World Cup. But I only did that because I really wanted to see if I was done. And at 36 years old, my body was done. I think emotionally, mentally, I might have been able to do it again, but my body was wearing out or worn out, paying those price now.
Are you?
Yeah, a little bit.
The knees and stuff, are they?
Knees and back are, worn out.
Yeah. Dr. Death. So you really kicked him, huh? You beat Dr. Death?
Well, Steve Williams, he's from Oklahoma. I wrestled him. He passed away recently, about 3 or 4 years ago. But he was a 4-time All-American, same time I was. I was only a 3-time All-American, but I did beat him 3 of the times in the NCAA championships. Once for third, once for first and second, once for third and fourth, and once in the preliminary round. So, yeah, the Dr. Death of the, what used to be the Continental Wrestling League or whatever it was, I wrestled him numerous times.
Was that ever a draw for you? I mean, that you could take your medals and wrap them around and go professional wrestling?
Nope, just enjoyed the pure wrestling of it, the competition. I'm not a showman. If you watched my matches, when I won, I think I won with a reasonable amount, and when I lost, I lost with a reasonable amount of emotion and sportsmanship either way. To me, it was all about being the best you could be at that particular time. And in professional wrestling, it's a show, and it's not about being the best you can be at any particular time.
Are there country programs, whether it's Russian, Iranian, that you kind of say they get it, or that they're more developed than others? Is there as you look at?
Oh, I think there's 4 or 5 countries in the world that put a lot of effort behind wrestling. Obviously Russia and Iran, the United States. I mean, different weight classes: Turkey and Japan, Cuba, Uzbekistan, Serbia. I mean, there's a lot of great wrestling countries in the world. I mean, it's wrestling. There's 180 countries that participate in the Olympic styles of wrestling, so that's a pretty huge number.
What's next for you? You're athletic director at Edinboro?
Well, my goal is to help continue to keep Edinboro University Athletics strong. I think it's a very reasonably priced education for a very, very good education. Depending on what course of study you're looking at studying at Edinboro, it's as good as any school in the area. I'd like to keep their athletic program strong and help build it to the next level.
You're a very impressive guy. And
Thank you.